Hello, I'm Rebecca of the Garden Gate Flower Company.
And I'm Grace of Grace Alexander Flowers.
And we've come together to create Stuart and Alexander Gather at the Garden Gate.
A podcast taking you behind the scenes of two gardens, what we've been up to, inside, outside, and out and about. Welcome to a very special episode of Stuart and Alexander. We have been to Chelsea Flower Show. A huge thank you to Crocus for our tickets. We had a wonderful day and we can't wait to share everything we saw and everything we did with you, our listeners.
And we just had such a nice time. Thank you so much, Crocus team. We really did enjoy it. We felt like genuine VIPs, didn't we, going on press day?
Oh, we did.
And so looked after as well. Such a great crew.
They're such lovely people, aren't they, at Crocus?
Yeah.
So lovely.
Yeah. And big shout out, can I say, to Josie as well, because she's been racing around helping us get everything sorted. So yes. I know there's more than just a team of Josie there, but she has been our fabulous contact with setting this all up. So yes. I feel like a whirlwind has just happened.
Have you come back down to earth yet? I'm still slightly floaty, I think.
I keep having... And this is what always happens to me when something really exciting like this has happened, and then have to remember that it just takes time for it all to filter through, and one doesn't have to race into the garden or get the websites up quickly and start ordering loads of things. It's because that's what you just want to do, isn't it? I just wanted to go out into my garden and start making it sort of elements of Chelsea that I wanted to take home, like that evening. Although I was so tired.
You mean you're not meant to do it?
You are. You are meant to do it. Maybe you're meant to do it after you've at least had a shower and your dinner before. I mean, I got in later than you as well, didn't I?
That is the difference between Somerset and Cornwall. Is one of them is much closer to London than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to say, I got home, did have a shower, washed all the London dirt off, which was lovely. And then we sat down and watched the coverage. So I must have been driving my husband mad because every time we saw anything, I was like, oh, this was really like this, and round the back it looked like this, and I was standing there when this was filmed, and oh, did you say Jo Wiley? That dress looked better in real life.
Yeah, so funny, isn't it? I think that's the other thing is that, I mean, so I got home and the message I got straight away was from Mum saying, are you watching Chelsea? And I was just like, I don't think I can just yet. I literally just got through the door. But yeah, great celebrity spotting. I think in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the same formula we do on every one of our episodes, which is our in, our out, and our out. But I think we're going to do, aren't we? We're going to do in the pavilion, outside, so the show gardens, and out. We're going to be telling our listeners what we're going to take from Chelsea to bring out of Chelsea Flower Show back to our own gardens. So I think that's quite a nice formula for everyone to follow along with.
I think it's a formula for life on some level. You have to get all your balance.
Exactly. Without much waiting, because I can't wait to hear what your in is. Because actually, it was quite fair. We were quite lucky because we didn't get the deluge of rain, did we, that everybody else has had.
No.
I'm sorry to everyone else that obviously had a very, very rainy day. But we had sunshine, so it was quite hard to...
Glorious.
Yeah, it was glorious. Apart from a bit cold, because obviously we arrived really early in the morning. I think we should say that we actually did arrive. We were through the gates at 7 o'clock in the morning, weren't we?
We were. If I thought we could have scaled the fence at 6:30, I'd probably asked you to do that. But we had to stand in the queue for our press pass, and we got in. I think we were a minute and a half past 7 or something. We were one of the first in, and the light was just a different level. I think that made that first hour just made the whole thing for me because it just was exquisite.
I agree. That was the magical moment for me. And I realise now why they put the show gardens where they put them, because the sun rises behind the show gardens. So the light just dapples through. So from a photographer's point of view, and we saw lovely Brit and Eva as well. So Brit Willoughby,
I think, is trying to tick off a list.
Yeah.
I think she's been mentioned in at least 50% of these podcasts.
We're going to have her on, aren't we, at some stage?
We are going to have her on.
And also Eva Nemes, who's absolutely wonderful as well. You see her work in all of the beautiful Gardens Illustrated. So if you haven't seen her before, we'll put her in the show notes. Go and have a look at her as well.
Work for Gather as well.
Yes.
Did Eva. If you're a member of Gather, she's got some lovely... I did an interview with her, and also she did a tutorial for us for flower photography.
Yeah, and I think we're going to do a collaboration with the Garden Gate as well. So it's really nice. It's quite exciting. So yeah, I might get her to Cornwall.
All the best people.
Might get her even to come to Cornwall. So they were there really early in the morning, and I can see why, because the light was, like we said, absolutely fantastic. But, okay, what was your favourite moment or stand in the pavilion.
I think we're gonna scatter, I think, some top tips. The first of which was, of course, to go in early.
Yeah.
The second top tip that I would have, particularly for the pavilion, is find a map. Why did we not have a map? Because I've come home and actually my favourite stands were amazing. I keep thinking
I didn't see
why
that one.
didn't we see Derry Watkins?
I'm just about to say.
You know,
I know.
I was so excited about seeing Derry Watkins, Special Plants, first Chelsea for 25 years. Did we even see her?
I don't know.
Kitten Grayson's installation. Did we even see it?
Do you know what? I think it's really, really difficult. And I think people will have this even when they go to Chelsea's. You think you've done it and you haven't. And I think we mentioned this, didn't we? The balcony gardens. Where did we again?
We have a confession.
Yeah.
Becca and I have been to Chelsea 2 years in a row. And we have missed out, I think, probably 30% of the entire show.
I don't know what it is.
We've never seen. I have no idea where the balcony gardens are, the container gardens are, the small gardens. So when we were watching on television and they were just showing all these beautiful features, I was like, I have no idea where they are, what they're
I
like.
want to fake it till I make it and go, yeah, we saw it. But I was just thinking, did we whiz past it? I mean, is there a section of Chelsea that you have to have another pass to get into? Like through a secret wood
section we just never get to.
Oh, for
I
goodness
think
sake.
it's on the other side of the food area. That's what I think, but we've never.
Can I also say a shout out to RHS Chelsea? Could we have better signage? Because the one thing I'd say is that Monday is quite a quiet day, and I did not notice any more gardens this way. Do you know what I mean? So
it's quite easy to get disorientated as well, isn't it?
It
so
is.
We went round. Sorry, we will get back onto the Pavilion in a minute, but we were trying to find the Sarah Raven
That was
stand.
hilarious. Yeah.
And it was hilarious because we had seen it at some point, but every side of the pavilion looks exactly the same from the outside. So we walked around 3.5 sides of this massive pavilion to get back to where we started to find this. If we just turned round and looked over our shoulder, we'd have seen
With
it.
me going, I know it was on this corner. It's definitely on the next one. It's definitely on the next one, Grace. And you were very patient with me.
It's just round here. It's just round here.
And I will say, so the pavilion is right in the centre, isn't it, really? I mean, you arrive at one of the gates and maybe
we don't know where the edges are.
Actually, don't take directional advice from us. It's really not worth it at all. Yeah, pick up a mat.
Although, second top tip, comfortable shoes is a must.
Yeah.
Obviously, dress up as much as you like from your ankles upwards, but sensible shoes, comfortable underneath.
And be sensible. And my other tip is be sensible with the bag. Because although we were there when it wasn't very busy, anything that's quite big that you're trying to carry around not only gives you chronic neck pain, but actually is quite difficult to squeeze and slither through to the front of the show gardens if you've got a big bag.
Oh, God, yes. And you wouldn't want to knock over a nursery stand, would you? Oof, can you imagine?
Exactly. Back to the pavilion. I think you're starting.
My favourite. I am starting. So, my favourite, and I think it was a bit of a slow burn for me, so I did a sort of double take. Ooh. And then the more I've seen of it afterwards, the more I've liked it, which is the Kent Wildflower Seed stand.
Beautiful. In
collaboration with Fern and a number of other people. Were they the ones that were handing out wildflower seeds? And I said, I'm really sorry, I can't take any. I'm organic.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. That was them. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yes. But very lovely, drifty, lots of grasses, as well as those really lovely native flowers. And a lovely lime wash backdrop. It felt a bit Sarah Price.
It did.
A la last year. Which, of course, we talked about endlessly in the lead up, because just before we walked into the gate, we were saying, is anything ever going to match up to Sarah Price 2023? Ever. How stunning that garden was. And then, of course, we walked round the corner and I gasped audibly when I saw the first show garden. So, yes, I would say Kent Wildflower Seeds. I think it was brave. It was lovely. You could stand and you could stare at it for a long time, and there was so much detail there. And obviously, being a seed merchant, I am a little bit biased towards the seed people.
Support the seeds.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, for me, it was the moment we entered, as it was. I mean, again, I don't know which direction we went into, so I can't exactly say on a map which entrance we went through, but it actually was the stand that was right in front of us. And maybe it's a bit like choosing a wedding dress. You always go back to the original one. As it would happen, the botanical nursery was right in front of us with the swathe of foxgloves. And it just, I don't know whether for me it's impact planting. So for me, it's it's obviously a single variety. Sorry, it's single flower, isn't it? It's all foxgloves. It was all foxgloves. Slight smattering of verbascums in there, but generally speaking, it was all of the incredible foxglove varieties that you can grow. And the lady there was just quietly tending it, getting it ready for the morning. And I just thought, gosh, this looks beautiful. And I've grown I've grown foxgloves, always grown foxgloves, but this year I grow foxgloves over the top of a load of very new bare root shrubs as a weed present. And they've just been bringing me so much joy in the field. And I have to say, seeing them like that, mass planted, so even more, obviously, just was amazing. They have a new variety out called Apple Blossom, which I know is quite controversial because you weren't so keen on it.
Oof, no.
I know.
No.
I'm a bit of a sucker for something new. I do think it's quite sweet. It is a bit between an orchid and a foxglove. And it doesn't match the name. I'm not entirely sure where the Apple Blossom name came from because it's a bit more purpley with the white, isn't it? So it doesn't do it for me on colour, but yeah, it has made me come home and start thinking more foxgloves. That was beautiful. Love that one.
Yeah, I don't want to be negative about it, but the thing that I adore about foxgloves, and the thing that made it so impactful when we first walked in the door of the pavilion, was the shape of foxgloves is unlike anything else.
Exactly.
They are elegant and they are fun and they are I just love their shape. And Apple Blossom was sweet, but it wasn't very tall.
No.
And it didn't have all the things that made me love foxgloves. So if you told me it was a completely different flower, I'd probably say, yeah, that's nice. But
yeah, because you put it in that category.
When it was a foxglove, I was a bit like,
And of course, foxgloves were used so much, weren't they, outside? And actually in the pavilion.
Yes, but we can't talk about that yet because that's my out.
No. Okay. Zip. Zip.
Save the out. We don't plan these in advance, by the way, in case anyone's thinking that we do. We don't.
No, under wraps.
Yeah.
But the pavilion did look fabulous, didn't it? Obviously, we did the David Austin stand, an amazing one. You had I saw the RNLI as well. That was quite fun.
The
Yeah. I
Yes,
think weren't the
lovely.
Chelsea pensioners on it when we were in there as well? Was that their stand? It was, wasn't
They
it?
were doing some
singing.
Yeah, they were singing. Yes. Although
They just look fabulous,
filming,
though. They look fabulous.
I got my camera out to take a picture of the Chelsea pensioners for my mother. Not quite sure why my mother would wanted that, but anyway, I did. And I realised that I was taking a photo of a Chelsea pensioner who was filming the singing, and I thought, oh, this has all got this is a bit meta now. Is anyone actually just being in the moment?
Yeah. I don't think anyone's in the moment at Chelsea, are they?
We did do a lot of filming, a lot of photographing, but as is the nature of the day, I think at one point both of my phones had no battery and we hadn't gone back to get the battery pack. So actually I had probably half an hour of completely tech-free just standing on Ula's stand, which has won Best in Show.
Mm.
That wasn't a name drop, by the way. That's just happened to be where I was when all my batteries ran out. And just loving it, just appreciating it and just being in it and trying to capture it in my mind.
It is work. Yeah, I do think that's exactly the thing. I mean, we were there for work and there is an element of having to tick off a lot of things. But yeah, I would have, is it awful to say I would have liked another sort of few hours or another half day?
I have noticed so many people just go back day after day after day, mostly because I notice their fashion choices and I can tell if they've changed outfits, they're there on a different day. But I think, well, given that we now realise the show is 50% bigger than what we actually thought it was, we probably need 2 days.
If anyone wants to send us next year to do specifically a feature on the balcony gardens, we are the couple to do it because it'll be brand new to Grace and I.
The hilarious thing is you are so into your containers.
I know. I can't even, there's no excuse. There is literally no excuse. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Never mind. But at least there's something to go back for.
Yes. Yeah. Keeping it fresh.
Keeping it fresh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, which moves us seamlessly onto the out.
Yes. Shall I do mine?
Yes, go on then.
So my out, it's really difficult because what I will say is, unlike last year, like we talked about, which was, and I think we have to say this again because I don't think this will ever go away, Sarah Price's garden was absolutely, for me, I don't know why, I don't know what the judging situation is, but it didn't win Best in Show, did it? I'm pretty sure it didn't, did it? No. No, it didn't. I don't know how it didn't, because it was absolutely, in my eyes, phenomenal. I don't think I can ever unsee Sarah Price's garden in my brain. It's like literally imprinted there as not only a colour, but a smell, a texture. The moment we were on the garden, it's just, anyone that got to see it on TV, it wowed people. Anyone that got to see it from the outside looking in, it wowed people. And we had the absolute privilege by Crocus of being able to go on it, which was just phenomenal. So being that close to all the textures was amazing. So for me, the show gardens that I saw were absolutely, this time, fabulous. There was a very, very, for me, very familiar sort of vibe, which was that woodsy, underplanted, lots of trees. As we know, Eula had, she had what, 50 trees in there? And I think we noticed, didn't we, that the temperature dropped when you stood on her garden. It literally noticeably felt cooler on her garden. Loads of water in the show gardens. But for me, out of them, and it's really difficult because there's elements there's elements of 3 of them that I absolutely loved, and I think I'll let you do yours, but I'm sure we know the top.
Don't take all
the top
bits.
3. The top 3. Yeah, we'll do the top 3. But for me, probably the one that I did just go, wow, this is absolutely beautiful. It could be also to do with the fact that the light was coming through the trees at the stage, was the Wateraid garden, Tom Massey's. Because it was that structure. It was that structure at the back that I just felt still had a lot of the sustainability, environmental sort of thoughts, but also did something really innovative and different to the others. So that rain catcher structure, for me, I think was just still that Chelsea wow factor that I think when you go to Chelsea, you want something that you just go, oh, it's Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? I quite like that.
Yeah.
I quite like that. Almost completely,
Yeah.
not bonkers, but very few of us are going to have that in our gardens at home, no? And I think that
Love the word bonkers.
I know, bonkers, yeah, exactly. But that design element was still wowed me, along with the planting, the water, the vibe.
And Tom Massey is always really strong on that level of drama and design. And I think something that I was talking about in my newsletter was, for very, very good reasons, moving much towards more sustainable and gardens that aren't just, 75% cement and concrete and a bit of bricks and then some plants over the top. They're very much getting away from that. And I think that did shift the emphasis in lots of really positive ways for me onto really solid planting and a lot of planting. But Tom's designs, he is featured a lot in Gardens Illustrated, so I've seen a lot of his designs over the years. He's just absolutely smashing it. He's an incredibly talented guy. He's always going to go for that extra drama. He will always put himself, you just have to look at his outfits, quite frankly, and he's always going to go something a little bit bonkers and it will turn your head. His designs are strong.
Yeah, that's what it just, for me, it was, I can't, that beautiful structure and the light coming over the top of it and that sort of coppery sort of tone, just I loved. What about you?
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to choose one, I think, because it's elements for me.
Well, now I feel all domestic and pedestrian and a bit undramatic. I love Tom, don't get me wrong, Tom Massey. I think he's a great guy. He was incredible. At the beginning of COVID, I don't know if anyone remembers, he and I built the Chelsea garden that was going to go to Chelsea that year. Yeah. We built it at Dystrophy Hospital outside the intensive care unit. So my heart is very loyal to Tom. However, you've had him, so I don't have to.
Yeah.
So credit to him. I'm going to go for the other Tom, which was Tom Stuart-Smith, who was utterly charming. Very. He was on the stand when we were on the garden and he was just delightful, very dapper, sort of crumpled linen suit and generally being one.
Yeah, I was too scared to go and say hi to him.
Yeah, so I took one of those really sneaky celeb pics of him in conversation with Charles Dowding, and I thought I'm just gonna put that as my wallpaper or something. So his garden for the National Garden Scheme with Crocus was for me magical. I think so. I've really thought about how I want to describe it. It felt for me, and I don't know, I'm so curious about how gardens function emotionally and psychologically, and probably if I'd come across it in a different place, would I have liked it so much? But it felt like a bit like you leaving Cornwall. I don't leave Somerset that often. And being up in London, and it was very busy, and it was we were navigating lots of new things. I was trying to download Uber apps because I've never got an Uber. There was a lot of novelty and a lot of stress. I wouldn't say it's stress, but just lots of unknowns. And as soon as I saw Tom Stuart-Smith's garden, I was just like, oh, this just feels lovely. Like my whole body just relaxed. A bit like Ula's garden where it felt very cool. I stepped onto it and I suddenly felt very held, very comforted. But there was so much detail there to really catch the eye and arrest. And so we walked from the front of the garden through this incredible planting. And hazel always has my heart anyway, despite the fact that I should grow willow. I don't in Somerset. I love just those multi-stem hazels with that just incredible underplanting. And again, the foxgloves, which I think will be my take-home. I know we're going on to out, but my take-home flower, I think, of this year.
Mm.
Not because they're not a flower I already grow. I've got white foxgloves everywhere. But the way that they were in that dappled shade, and like you say, the way that the show gardens are sited, you get that incredible morning sun, and there's a lot of quite tall trees around, so you get this really dappled, beautiful soft light, and the foxgloves just glowed. So you wander up through this incredible planting in amongst these lovely, lovely multi-stem hazels, and at the back was just the loveliest. For the National Garden Scheme volunteers, because obviously it's raises a huge amount of money for charity. If you don't go to your local NGS gardens, do look them up. But they rely heavily on volunteers and the goodwill of people with gardens and who garden. And there's just wonderful shed. It's not really a shed.
Couldn't call it a shed. It's like a
cabin,
cabin.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
I could have lived it.
An Arga.
And it had an Arga. It had an Arga. Team Everhot, obviously, if Everhot are listening. And it was just, it felt, I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it? Because one does go to Chelsea for the drama. One does go for innovation and excitement and all of those things. But there was just something about it that I just thought, this just feels, I could feel it in my heart, that garden. It felt lovely. And there was so much of it I thought I want to take this away. I want to.
Yeah, for me, I have to praise him wholeheartedly, because the one thing you don't normally get with a show garden is scent. I found this really difficult, like I said, saying which one my favourite is, because for me, Tom did something that I don't think many people remember to do, which is plant scent. And of course, controversially, I know, because don't we like azaleas? I love azaleas, absolutely love azaleas. And I have them, Cornish girl, obviously, I have them in my garden on the pathway because the scent is so inviting. It's absolutely beautiful. So when you come down my path, I have the same. I felt very in good company, really, to be honest with you. The same planting, that lovely, milky, creamy, lemony colour, underplanted, like you said, with foxgloves. It was absolutely beautiful. And I definitely loved his outdoor sink, which was on the side of the shed. Which I just, having done my own outdoor kitchen, there was an element of me going, oh, I've done an outdoor kitchen, but I really want that outdoor kitchen. And I've got a cabin, but I really want that cabin. It was fabulous. And it was very bold is what I was thinking, because actually, and I know there were big windows on this cabin, so people visiting could, because obviously not normally allowed on the garden, but you can see through it. And obviously if you're watching on TV, take you into it. But I would question, Grace, that you could see the Arga, for example. I don't think you could have seen that from the side. And there was an element, I was like, that was quite a bold move, really, because he's created a space that actually the public, some of the public, wouldn't have been able to see, which is quite a bold move in terms of creating a garden as a designer, going, oh, actually, I'm going to create this, but actually nobody's going to see it unless they come in or it's filmed for TV. So I thought that was quite bold, really.
Yeah.
And also the back window with those foxgloves, almost creating, whereas the back of a shed, you'd say, we're going to put a beautiful painting or have some sort of garden art. No. I'm going to have a massive glass window and I'm going to plant foxgloves. But as I'm looking at my kitchen now, I'm like, I'm in good... Tom and I would get on really well. I have white foxgloves looking out of my kitchen window as I speak now. And it brings me so much joy. Foxgloves. Just foxgloves.
Yes. Proper
foxgloves. Proper foxgloves. Yeah. So I think you're right.
I also have white foxgloves. In fact, I have one, for some bizarre reason. I have one white foxglove outside my kitchen window. This is a top tip for general life, not for Chelsea. But when you design a garden, do not stand in your garden the whole time whilst you're thinking about what to do. Go and stand inside your house, particularly where you do your washing up, and see what's on the other side of that window. because I think that was an absolute masterclass of how to frame a garden from inside.
100%.
It was just one huge window with this incredible foresty. It was quite dark between the cabin and the sort of the back wall of the show garden, but it just meant that it was just incredible. Incredible. It was a bit like being in an aquarium.
Yes.
It was like a foxglove aquarium is the best way I could describe
Was
it.
it me, or did the greens almost look quite luminous as well? It was unbelievably, it was amazing, I thought. Really, really amazing. So actually, I think we probably have very similar vibes in that. I will also shout out to Crocus Ula's garden as well. For me, I mean, I know, so the top, I don't know how you feel, but my top three were Stuart-Smith and Ula's. Ula's garden was absolutely fabulous as well, and for muscular dystrophy. And we met a lovely family, didn't we, that were on the garden. We spoke to the grandmother, and she had brought her grandson, who I think she said to me was 5 or 6 years old, and absolutely loving going around the gardens. And he was enjoying all the water, and she's got this incredible bowl or dish, I think it was referred to, which just looked like glass, but was just spilling. And then it meandered its way down through the middle of the garden with this beautiful planting. And it was magical. It was very, very calming. And I felt very still on that garden. I felt very still. And I think what she did to that garden, the use of the trees, I think she talked about it being hugging and what it was tree bathing, wasn't it? That was what it was all about.
Forest bathing,
yeah.
Yes, I can't pronounce the Japanese for forest bathing, but yes.
No, that's right. But it was a very, very beautiful garden, and congratulations. And congratulations to them all. The work, and I know the work that Crocus went into creating those gardens for the Chelsea designers, it was phenomenal. It's going to be very weird that is their last, they have announced that's it, isn't it, for Crocus. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens next year, because there aren't endless supplies of plant nurseries doing this, and the sustainability of Chelsea. Interesting. It'll be very interesting indeed, because I think even one of the designers we spoke to said about it was a difficult spring and plants were limited already, weren't they?
I quote, there were fist fights at the nurseries.
There were.
That's what she said.
Gosh, you're very good at remembering those things.
Don't ask me her name.
No, I know. It's probably shouldn't actually.
I wouldn't say her name anyway.
No. But that is.
I wouldn't say her name anyway.
But actually, that would be the other thing I would take home, is that there was a lot, and there was another garden designer, wasn't there, who I think did feel that maybe there wasn't. It was all very the same as well. There wasn't huge amount of variety, obviously, in what was available to plant. Lots of the same things. Verbascums everywhere.
But this is the fact. I mean, Chelsea has always been the third week of May, and there is only so much that is out in the third week of May.
It is so true.
I mean, and that's fine. I think there were many fewer irises this year, and why peonies don't feature much more.
Because peonies are just so tricky, though, aren't they? Can you imagine the sweat? Can you imagine the sweats that you'd be having trying to get a peony to flower for Chelsea? The lovely peony grower.
There were a couple
in the pavilion.
Yeah, there was a couple on Tom Stuart-Smith's garden, actually, which were really tight in bud. And I thought, if this is a hot week, they'll look incredible by Friday. Yeah. But of course, they had torrential rain for 2 days. I'm not sure that peony is ever going to have its moment in the starlight.
No, exactly. So what will you be taking? What are you going to be taking out and back to Somerset from Chelsea? What's your...
In the course of this conversation, I've changed my mind 4 times as to what I was going to say for this bit.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But just picking up where you sort of ended, is that water bowl in Eula's garden I think was just lovely. So it was just a very shallow dish that was just slightly tilted. So it had just this trickle of water that came off the side in a very gentle, it wasn't a gushing of anything. It was just a very flat, calm bit of water with just like a trickle. And obviously I went to Joe McCurr's garden a week ago, last Friday, I think it was, to learn about water in the garden. And it just, I feel like lots of the things that I'm reading and seeing are guiding me towards how important that water is. So that, I think,
yes, goodness,
is going to be a big project, obviously going alongside my duck obsession.
Which you need
that
water.
Didn't go down well at Joe McCurr's. Yes, you do need water. I think there's going to be duck water and there's going to be
water,
ornamental water.
Yeah, fair play.
Because I don't think they mix particularly.
No.
So yes, and actually I was looking at Instagram this morning and I did find the people that made the dish, the water feature,
Oh,
water bottle
okay.
word for garden. So I will put that in the show notes as well. I think it was Torque Pots, Torc, I think. But I am seeing lots of those long, low dishes. And in fact, Jo McCurr has some that she hand cast in concrete.
Lovely.
Just static bowls, I think she calls them. Definitely water. I just want to do an extra shout out. I'm going to put a bonus one in for, there was where we literally first went in the gate. The first thing we saw before we even saw the show gardens was
I know what you're going to say.
a trade stand, yes, for somebody called Alex Puddy, who is, again, I put it in the show notes, heritage architectural something. I will find
It's a reclamation yard, isn't it?
And he did.
But he also designs their own things.
Terribly posh.
Terribly posh.
Yes, I didn't feel I could call him reclamation or salvage.
No.
He's much posher than that. But the most incredible copper ponds and granite troughs and just incredible things. And that
and bench.
The water in Tom. Oh, the bench. You loved the bench.
Loved the bench.
You? The bench was delightful. Handmade. So that and the water around the side of Tom Stuart-Smith's garden, I think the gods are telling me that it's time to get some serious water.
Well, it's so funny because I will agree with you on that one. And I have this low granite planter from the farm, and it's very special to me because it's really sentimental. And I haven't wanted to plant it out. It's not small and not big, so it's quite an awkward shape and size, really, in terms of you could put rockery things in it, but then where do you've got to put it on or feature it into a wall or a raised bed, and I can't do that. So I did years ago just put a cork in it and filled it with water, and it's been really pretty. It is actually currently at the moment on 2 wooden rollers because I cannot decide where in the garden to move it. And my husband refuses to do another move until it is in the right spot, which is incredibly infuriating because what I want to do is get him to just roll it around the garden until I find the right spot, which he's not agreeing to that.
His back's
no, it's not. It's not up
no.
for it at all. He's told me it's actually impossible, which he probably is right, but I'm sure there is a method, Stonehenge and all. But I'm going to try and find a little water pump, I think, to put in it because I've never been a fan of water. But can I just say, I'm not that kind of gardener that I don't want a fountain. But like you said, if you can have just a low bubble, do you know what I mean, under the water that keeps the water moving, because we are in a low water table area. So unfortunately, any sort of standing water does get a bit natty down here. And I would like to have that. So I'm going to go and look for that. And then I'm going to actually make a plan of where it's going to go and announce it to the husband.
Granite troughs are a commitment.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the plan. A bit like you, I feel a bit overwhelmed by my take home. But I have 2 things, and if you count the water one as well, it's 3. So I'm sorry, I've just completely trumped your one. I think probably we both are going to be doing this. Foxgloves. I've just sewn biannual foxgloves. If you would like to have foxgloves like you have seen at Chelsea, now is the time to either order your seed or start sowing your seed. I'm going to start sowing my seed now because actually, although it always says June, I think at the end of May, we're absolutely fine. And it's a little bit cool. And I find biennial sowing can be a bit difficult because if you get a blast of heat, it can almost be too hot for biennial sowing. So choose a slightly overcast day, start sowing your seed. Done. Tick. There's so many varieties to try. So that's a huge thing. I'm definitely going to invest in more of those in my garden. The second thing is a bit of a structural thing. For me, again, we talked about the fact that I am the queen of pots. I have a fence line, which is obviously next to my neighbour. And the fence line is deteriorating. I really love her to fix it because it is her responsibility, but it doesn't seem to be very forthcoming. But I'd like it to be fixed. But in the interim, I saw on the agriframe stand these lovely, tall zinc planters. And when at all, I reckon they were about 4 foot, weren't they? I reckon 4 foot tall.
I'd say 3'6".
Oh,
I'd
3'6".
Would you say hip height?
Hips.
Hip height, maybe?
I'm quite tall. My hips are high.
Yeah.
But that's fine. My point being is that I don't have any soil on my side of the fence line. So I've always struggled with the idea. I would have obviously planted a hedge and then had a nice soft hedge, but I don't have one. And I've never really seen tall planters like this where I've really loved them. Maybe, again, it's seeing them actually in front of you that makes a huge difference to seeing them in a catalogue. But they were really beautiful, and I just thought they recommended them for screening areas, at the back of seating areas. I really liked them. So I'm going to look at something like that I can put against the fence line, which is deteriorating at a rate of knots, to hide that and put some planting in. So again, looking at the structures, I love structures in gardens.
Yeah.
Things get varying heights. They had it planted up with geums, didn't they? And it just looked totally tangerine, but it looked fab, didn't it?
The trip to the Agriframe store was a bit of a highlight for everybody all round, because you loved the
Giggly,
planters.
yeah.
Though I loved the supports, which were made of rusty mild steel
Yeah.
and a lot of string. So it's just basically my dream.
Yeah.
And the lady on the Agriframes stand, hello to Vicky, said that she listened to our podcast.
Which is brilliant.
Which was just, it happened so often. I can't believe how many people we bumped into said, you listened to the podcast. So if you were one of them, huge thank you for absolutely making our day. It was a really special thing for us to do together as part of Stuart and Alexander, the crescendo of the first series. And I can't believe what an incredible, joyous,
season.
wonderful experience
Yeah.
it was to go to Chelsea together
Yeah.
and to share that together, and then to be able to come home and share it with all of you listeners.
I know, it has been really good. This is episode 9. This is the penultimate. And episode 10 is going to be all about how we got to where we are today. I think there's going to be some fun questions that we're going to fire at each other. I feel like I might be sitting with the teenagers when you do those sorts of things, because I've had those sort of questions before. It's there is no wrong answer. It's like wings, or I don't know, would you like wings, or would you like to be able to go invisible? That's the sort of thing that I get asked by my children.
I tried to put Monty or Adam in there and you vetoed it as a question. So
Obviously it's Monty. So that's coming up in episode 10. We are then going to have a little bit of a break. I think we said a sort of a 10-day break, and then we'll be coming out with season 2, which will be sort of our summer going into autumn season. It's really exciting. And just, thank you to everybody that has listened, shared, liked the podcast. But listen, Grace, I'm going to go up. So the one thing I have got to do, apart from that, I've got a couple of weddings this weekend, exciting bank holiday wedding weekend. I am putting a ton of annuals out today. I potted them on. They've got big enough. It's quite delayed, actually, but I've held off because of the slug feast that is outside. Yeah, we still go on about slugs. It is still a huge issue, actually. Huge issue. But from cleaning up, house cleaning, getting rid of slugs, no good way of getting rid of them. Just have to get rid of them, snip them in half. Sorry to everybody. I feel confident now about putting some things out. Keep your fingers crossed for me, please.
I'm sewing foxgloves. If you're a member of Gather, loads of foxgloves in the Gather seed shop.
Oh, beautiful.
Have I
What's
got
your favourite?
whites?
What's your
Ooh.
favourite one? Just before we go, what is your favourite foxglove in the Gather seed box?
Oh, it's like a favourite child. Probably Sutton's apricot.
It is.
If you absolutely, gun to my head, you had to make me choose, I'd say it's Sutton's apricot.
Yeah, I've sewn mine yesterday. Whole tray of them. So I'm quite excited about that. Listen, lovely to chat to you, Grace. Thank you everyone for listening. And if you are at Chelsea today or in the next couple of days, enjoy yourself. It's going to be so much fun.
Tell us how the balcony gardens were.
Get a map. Get a map. Oh,
Get a map. Sensible shoes and a map.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Lovely to chat to you. Bye.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.